My name is Terry McGuire, and I'm one of the Democratic candidates running for Roanoke City Council.
Let's cut right to it. Why do you want to serve on Roanoke City Council?
I think that is a great question, and I've known for a long time that I wanted to run for office. I ran in 2022. I have worked in public policy, environmental policy specifically, for the last at the federal level for the last 13 years. And I loved that, and I was very passionate about the work and especially the subject matter. And one of the things I learned from that, I learned a lot, but was the importance of strong, competent, thoughtful, progressive, forward-thinking local elected government. Local government is so important, and it often, we will see thousands of people that will come out to vote on November 5th and will not vote in our local city council races. I know from my experience how important it is. I love neighborhood organizing, community organizing. I like pushing to try to make things better. And I've always, either professionally or in my personal life and capacities, been involved with things to try to improve, quality of life, environmental health, public health. And this is my home. I'm from here. I love it. I always knew I wanted to move back. And I think we have a tremendous amount to be proud of and progress to defend, things that we have accomplished and where we are. I think Roanoke is a great place, and I think we have a lot of work to do, and I'd like to help with that. I think that my skills and background and experiences would be, I hope would be useful on council.
Well, let's talk priorities. If you're elected to city council, what would be one of the first actions that you would push the council to undertake?
That's a great question. My number one policy priority is restoring funding for after-school programming and getting our youth recreation programs in better shape and sorted out and more equitable. That is not probable. I don't expect that will be something that we'll be able to do in the first year. But one thing that I would definitely like to do in the first year of being on council, another issue that's really important to me is traffic and pedestrian safety. And it's something I've worked on a lot in my neighborhood. I've grown even more passionate about it going all over the city because I see the unsafe driving and I hear about it. And I want to pass an ordinance to allow traffic cameras in school zones, which is a new authority that Richmond, the state legislature, granted localities recently. And we have to proactively opt into that. So I would like to do that. I think that's something that we can do right away.
Well, a main priority of the council is overseeing a roughly $380 million budget. Mm-hmm. What would you like to see happen within that budget over a 4-year term?
Well, I have a lot of ideas, and I know that a lot of things that I'm calling for, whether it's increased investments in sidewalk improvements or restoring funding to after-school programming, I know that these things cost money. So I'm very eager, if elected, I hate waste and redundancy, waste of taxpayer dollars, waste of time, waste of effort. So I'm really interested in sitting down with my colleagues, with the audit, looking at where can we save money? What are the things that we can do? And from little things to bigger shifts. I'm not interested in raising taxes on especially working class, middle income people, but I think that there are ways big and small that we can look to come up with some money. Whether that's, I think we have an issue with our city employees idling their vehicles. I see that all the time across departments. That's a small thing, but I also hear a lot about people complaining about the cost of gas. So we could save money there. Longer term, I'm excited to see a lot of our schools installing finally solar panels. I think that's a good long-term investment. I was glad to see us go back to 2 assistant city managers down from 3. I think that was prudent and will work out just fine. So, in a longer term, I want to see us increase. I think we average about 2% of our total budget is allocated to parks and rec and urban forestry. And that's everything from our parks and rec maintenance to our urban forestry efforts, our trails maintenance, all of that. And if you look at comparable jurisdictions, in Virginia even, we lag behind. And so I would like to see us get that up to 4 or 5% of the budget dedicated to Parks and Rec and investing in that infrastructure, whether that's getting the rec centers reopened and just starting to eat into, I forget, I haven't been on the Parks and Rec board in a while, but it was something like $70-80 million in deferred maintenance needs. And so we need to work on that. And I think those are investments that are good for us as people that live here right now in our neighborhoods and families. And it's also good, I think, longer term or shorter term even for growing our outdoor recreation economy. That is, so much of that uses our parks and outdoor spaces and amenities. And so we have to invest in those and continue, to see those kept up and expanded and improved.
I want to turn to housing and neighborhoods right now. In Roanoke, residential neighborhoods remain highly segregated. What role does city government play in dismantling that legacy of sort of an institutionalized local segregation?
Well, I am not an expert on real estate law, but I think there was some of that attempts to take out some of the remnants of the racist, redlining real estate practices of the past, housing policies of the past in the zoning updates that the council just passed. Again, I'm not quite an expert on that, but if that is indeed what, that seems to me like something that council did do to seek to address that. I think one of the great, that's a good question, and I don't know that I have the full answer, but I think that economic opportunity, lack of opportunity, poverty, I think, and continues just to hold back so many of our neighborhoods. And how do we break those cycles of poverty? Some things, we have, state and federal problems, and the city can't solve every issue for every person, but I think there are things that we can do to work towards greater economic opportunity, continuing to stay focused on education. I think that's just a foundational sort of doorway to any opportunity is having, a good quality public education and working really hard to figure out what do we do to address discrepancies in outcomes that we see in our schools from, wealthier parts of the city to less wealthy parts of the city. I'd like to do everything I can to continue to support public education. I'm really interested in when it comes to economic development, attracting what I call or what's called high quality jobs, good paying jobs, that people can actually support, a family, raise kids, save some money, go on vacation, have benefits. Those are the kind of jobs that I think we need and deserve. So I really want to go after that kind of, those kinds of jobs to bring those here. I'm gonna keep being out in the community and listening to people. I am very aware of the huge lack of trust that a lot of the members of the Black community in Roanoke, how a lot of people feel towards city government, and I think it's justified and totally understandable. And so coming into it, if I am elected, I want to really hear from people what do they want to see for their neighborhood. I think that's really important to me, thinking about development broadly, whether in the Black community, in that Black neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods. We all, I think, everyone deserves to be involved in what's going on in their community. To not how do we mitigate gentrification? That's an issue that we haven't. I don't think Roanoke has. We're not Charlottesville, we're not Richmond, we're not Northern Virginia, but it's a nut that not many cities have been able to figure out how to crack. How do you grow in a way that doesn't push people out and displace them? And so I don't have the answer to that, but I'm very aware of, not wanting to replicate mistakes that other places make, and just to be thoughtful and intentional and kind of on the ground and listening is where I'd like to start.
I want to go back to a topic that you sort of briefly mentioned at the top, and that is the city's climate action plan, climate action. What would you do to help implement the climate action plan? And do you agree with the recommendations within that plan?
Yes, that is a great question. I was very proud to help lead the push to encourage council to incorporate that into the comprehensive plan. I think that in total, it is a very good plan with a lot of ambitious suggestions, recommendations, observations, advice on what Roanoke could do to move the needle. We have made progress on addressing our carbon footprint. We've gotten a lot of the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, and so we know that climate change is real, it exists, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and so we have to take very aggressive action to tackle it, to reduce our footprint, but then also to prepare our neighborhoods and communities for the impacts that we know we're already seeing. So I think it's a very good plan. I think that we have to empower staff to come up with an implementation plan that then council should absolutely adopt, support. I think that we have to have a sustainability department. There's a staff of one person right now. If you look around at localities around the state, just looking at Virginia, I think Blacksburg has 2 sustainability staffers. We need a team of people. We need a sustainability department with a director, with a team of staff. And whether this person sits in that department or another, I think that we need additional people on staff with the city that can do grant writing to apply for grants and get state and federal dollars. I think that we're missing out on a lot of money because we're not applying locally to get it. And especially in the sustainability and the climate change realm, there's just a lot of money right now available at the federal level, and we need to be really proactively going after that and investing locally and thinking about also just thinking longer term. Part of what I think is so important about the climate action plan and why it needed to be folded into or part of the comprehensive plan is the idea is to spread sustainability sort of thinking across like all of our big budget and planning decisions. And so if we're thinking about building a new recreation center, we should be thinking about how do we make that a carbon neutral, or at least reduce as much as possible. These should not be separate. Sustainability has to be woven into everything that we do and how we think, in the same way that the city speaks and talks a lot about interweaving equity through everything that we do. Equity and sustainability are directly linked. You cannot have equity without sustainability.
I want to make sure I'm right about this part before I pose this question. Did you oppose the recent decision to change the zoning to end exclusively single-family zoning? You opposed that change?
I didn't like the package. It was the package of amendments that were adopted. I wouldn't have supported them as they were passed.
So what is your solution to encouraging more affordable housing?
Well, I would like to see, I think that compromise is really possible, and I don't know what's going to happen. The council has passed the zoning amendments. I think that the outcome of these elections will give us better clarity, on what may be possible next in terms of making tweaks or adjusting it or making any changes whatsoever. Will just be a function of their votes on council to do that. So I think, I think we absolutely need more housing. I think that the language that speaks, or the focus on especially building more missing middle housing, affordable housing, density. We need more density, especially in our neighborhoods that are closer to downtown and sort of work out. I think it should get less dense as it goes out. I have big concerns, though, about our code enforcement. Our current code enforcement efforts, to me, don't seem where they need to be. And if I'm going to go into neighborhoods like mine or Southeast, where you have a lot of slumlords that continue to exist and operate houses, or vacant and blighted houses, I want to focus on that we should be cracking down. We need more aggressive code enforcement. So if we want more density, how do we say to folks in Southeast, we want you to have even more of these kinds of apartments and houses, when I don't think a lot of people that I talk to feel like they're getting adequate services and responses from the city now. So, and I also, I think that the design guidelines, making sure that, I live in Old Southwest, so in my neighborhood, it's not going to be possible for someone to come in and tear down a house and build a bunch of townhouses or 4, 6, 8, whatever is allowed, depending on where you are. But we know that we've seen that happen in other places where growth did happen very quickly and suddenly, from Asheville to Arlington, developers coming into neighborhoods like Wasena and Norwich and buying little houses, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1-baths, leveling them and building something, packing it with townhouses. I think we do need more townhouses, but I would like to see design guidelines that keep neighborhoods kind of on scale relatively, make sure that we don't stress out the infrastructure too much, make sure that it's doesn't diminish people's quality of life that already live there. And I think that that's possible. I would also like to see us more aggressively go after redevelopment of underutilized and vacant and blighted spaces. I don't see as much of that as I would like the pushing for redevelopment of Valley View and the town square and just the different numerous strip malls and vacant and underutilized asphalt parking lots that we have around the city. I really want to focus on seeing those developed first.
So you've been working as a substitute teacher in the city school system.
Yep.
You've probably heard that the superintendent recently proposed an idea to launch a new high school, a magnet high school in the city that would help ease some of the crowding at the 2 city high schools. What do you think of that plan, and do you think that that is the right way to go?
Well, I'm definitely not, there are people that are going to have to look at that and see if it's workable from an operations and facilities perspective. But as an idea, I love it. I think it's a great idea. If we need another high school, I love the idea of a magnet high school. I love the idea of repurposing, reusing the Jefferson Center. So I think it's a very cool idea. If it works out and it's something that the school feels like works for them, I would love to, help with that however I can.
So let's switch gears a little bit. You're going out for a night in Roanoke, and you're going to eat out. Name one place. Where would it be?
Okay. I'm probably going to Tacos Rojas. And getting horchata and chili rellenos and tortilla chips and salsa.
Tacos Rojas has a few locations. Where's your favorite location?
The one kind of over by Grandin and Mountain View.
What books are on your nightstand? What have you been reading lately?
What books are on my nightstand? Well, I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't really have any books on my nightstand right now. I'm not really doing a lot of reading. I have a gratitude journal because campaigning can be stressful and being a teacher can be stressful. So I've been writing down things each day that I'm grateful for. I have way too many Roanoke Times piled up and a couple Blue Ridge Outdoors magazines, I think. No books at the moment.
Old school with the print.
Oh yeah, I still get the Roanoke Times.